Yo, what's going on, guys? It's Houston Sports Talk back in the video today, and the Houston Texans nearly beat the Dallas Cowboys. If you had intentions for the Texans to win this one, you were probably very disappointed in the ending. But me personally, I was not. I was very impressed with how this Texans team played this whole game, and even though it did not end up in success as they lose 23-27. I thought ultimately this was the best game of the season for the Houston Texans. They almost pulled off the upset of the season, and that is a fact. If they were to win this game, this would have been the upset of the season. They had multiple great performances. I thought they had a great coaching game. I thought Lovie Smith had his best coaching game of the season, besides a couple of bad calls in the fourth quarter, which we've seen him have way worse calls as the head coach. I just thought this was a really planned out good game for the Houston Texans. We saw them surprise the Cowboys with Jeff Driscoll. I loved how I talked about this in the pregame, and I did not think at all it would be how they were going to do it. I was saying on some third and shorts, you bring in Jeff Driscoll, he runs it off. They were putting him in the red zone and securing scores. The Texans, they did not have, let's be honest, the Texans did not have a good second half. They had a great first half, and they didn't have a good offensive second half, but they had a great defensive second half with an interception, which was the first time this season Dak Prescott had thrown a pick in the second half. And not only that, but held the Cowboys to only 10 points in the second half. And not only did you get that interception, but you stopped the Cowboys on the goal line. So there was just a lot of great things the Texans did today. Dameon Pierce had an excellent game. Davis Mills, for only throwing 21 passes, had a good game with 175 passing yards. And I know 175 doesn't look good but when he's splitting those numbers with Jeff Driscoll had 38 passing yards because I loved how the Texans did it today. There was a red zone quarterback, and you had Davis Mills when we were in the red zone. Most of the times you saw Jeff Driscoll in the red zone. If it was like a third and long in the red zone, Davis Mills would be in there. But, I'm very impressed with this Texans team. And let's get to the scoring summary. So the Cowboys score first on their first drive, and they take the lead 7-0. And so what do the Texans do next? On their next drive, they get stopped by the Cowboys, but they go for the punt, and the Cowboys fumble the punt. The Texans go a 6-play, 24-yard drive after that, and Dameon Pierce runs it in for the touchdown, and we tie things up at 7. Then the Houston Texans would go ahead and stop the Cowboys, throw a great pass. Davis Mills would throw a great pass to Chris Moore down the field, and Farrenbarron would knock in a 43-yard field goal, and a 6-play, 47-yard drive. We make it 10-7. But then the Cowboys would come right back in a 2-minute, 50-second drive. Tony Pollard would catch a 10-yard pass from Dak Prescott, and the Cowboys would retake the lead 10-14. Then, with 2 minutes and 23 seconds, Jeff Driscoll would throw a 28-yard touchdown pass to Amari Rodgers. He gets his first touchdown of his career, his first catch as a Texan as well, and that was a good one for the Houston Texans. 28-yard connection. Texans take the lead back 17-14. Then with 40 seconds, which you would probably think would be the last score of the drive, last score of the half, right? The Texans can't score in 40 seconds as Brett Maher makes a 33-yard field goal to tie it up at 17. Then, guess what? Davis Mills leads a 5-play, 43-yard, 40-second drive. Farrenbarron lines up for a 50-yard field goal. We go to halftime 20-17 for a team that their highest points all season is 24, and to have 20 at halftime, I just thought that was very amazing. Obviously, they didn't pass 24; they only had 3 points in the second half. But I think this was a very slow half for the Texans. I think they were kind of. Number one, they were kind of playing keep away from the Cowboys as well. Then the Cowboys would have the Texans would have the only score of the third quarter. Fairbairn would make a 54-yard field goal, make it 23-17. Then to start the fourth quarter, Brett Maher would make a 53-yard field goal to make it 23-27, and then the Cowboys will go here's how they were at the 2-yard line. The Texans were stopped on 4th and goal, and that's the bad call I thought Lovie Smith made. And ultimately, you could think I'm stupid or whatever for saying this, but I really truly think the Texans should have went for the field goal on fourth and whatever it was, fourth and goal from the 2. I know that sounds stupid. Go for the touchdown, you get the win, right? But like if you get the field goal, then when the Cowboys score a touchdown, you're only down by 1. So all you need is a field goal to get the win. So honestly, personally, in my opinion, I think if in that moment, if the Texans didn't go for it on 4th and goal, and they went for the field goal, which sounds crazy, and made it 26-20, the Cowboys scored a touchdown, would probably score a touchdown. Also, they'd probably score a touchdown a little bit quicker because they'd be at the 25-yard line instead of the 2-yard line. You get the ball with about a minute and a half remaining, probably about a minute 15 instead of 40 seconds. You would be able to get in field goal range, and you'd line up Fairbairn, who'd already made a 50 and a 54-yard field goal, and you would have won 29-27. I can guarantee that would have happened if you went for the field goal. But the Texans, they were aggressive. They're 1-10-1, and they said, "Fuck it. If we're not gonna secure this win." I like the gutsy call. At the same time, even though I thought it was the wrong decision, I liked the call. I thought it's very controversial, but I think it was a gutsy call. Was it the right call? No. And that was the end of the scoring summary. Passing leaders, you got Davis Mills throwing 16 for 21, 175 yards and 1 interception. Driscoll threw 38 yards. And the only passing touchdown for the Texans. Those two guys combined for 213. Prescott was 24 for 39, 284 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. Dameon Pierce had 22 carries, 78 yards, 1 touchdown. 78 yards and 1 touchdown. Great game from Pierce. Ezekiel Elliott had 15 carries, 62 yards, and 1 touchdown. For the Texans, Chris Moore stepped up to the plate with no Nico Collins and no Brandon Cooks. He stepped up, and he had a great game. I was very impressed with him. He had 10 receptions, 124 yards. Dalton Schultz had 6 receptions and 87 yards. And let's go to the full box score. Going to the rest of the rushing, Driscoll had 7 carries, 36 yards. He was a big impact on the run game. Pollard had 10 carries, 42 yards and 1 touchdown. And for the Texans, more receiving, Amari Rodgers had 4 receptions, 57 yards, 1 touchdown. For the Cowboys, Noah Brown had 4 receptions, 85 yards. Gallup had 2 receptions, 40 yards. CeeDee Lamb had 5 receptions, 33 yards. That was it. The Texans, 2 fumbles in this game. Dameon Pierce fumbled, and the Cowboys recovered. And then Blake Cashman recovered a fumble on the punt return, which was a great play. The Cowboys ultimately had 4 fumbles in this one. Dak Prescott fumbled, which they would ultimately receive the ball back. They only lost 1 of their fumbles today, and Trevon Diggs they recovered 2 fumbles, and they recovered 2 fumbles, and they lost 1. Defensive Texans, Jalen Petrie was on locks today. He had 12 tackles, and he was locking up the Cowboys wide receivers. Kirksey had 10. He had a good game as well. The team ended up having 4 tackles for loss and 1 sack. The 1 sack went to Okonkwo. 2 tackles for loss for Desmond King. The rest one went to Malik Collins, the former Cowboy. And then the newest Texan, Taylor Stallworth, gets a tackle for loss. Tremon Smith has 2 interceptions. He was a big impact in this game. Just sucks that the Texans weren't able to finish with the win. But shout out to him because he had 2 great interceptions in this one. And the Desmond King did a decent job as the returner today. And then Farrenbairn was perfect today, 3 for 3. Longest was 54, 2 for 2 on extra points, and contributed in 11 points for this one. Texans didn't have the best finish in this one, but I think this was their best performance all season. Let me know your thoughts on the Texans game for today, and that's it for the video. Hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know your thoughts, and peace out. Go Texans.